breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Now let's feel it as a cycle of chest breathing followed by a cycle of belly breathing. So let's try chest breathing to start with. So on chest breathing, this is the one that you would do if you were exerting yourself, if you were running and needed to get a lot of oxygen in quickly. So here I expand the chest by tightening my back, pulling my shoulders together. And then I just relax that and it will just come back to normal. And then I expand again and relax. Expand. Relax. This tends to emphasize the thymus. So this whole area, really, the throat, the thymus. The thymus is the center, so it goes up into the throat and down into the lower heart. So a sense that you're expanding that point, and then it just naturally just comes back to normal. It was like a sun or a star. It's just shining brightly. And then it just comes back. So the element associated with it is fire. And it's tending to want to rise. So the thymus is the center of fighting spirit. And then just let that energy come up into the head. And then just back to riding horse. And now some belly breathing. So here we work on the out breath. So as I breathe out, I just pull in my belly and try and expel as much stale air as possible. And then I just relax back to the vertical and air will come in. So I pull the belly in, really tightening the belly muscles, which means I'll be stretching across the lower back. And then just relax those muscles and you'll come back to vertical. The center of this breathing is the dantian. So the dantian feels like it's collapsing in on itself all the time. It's pulling at the world. It's your own gravitational center. And it's dark. It's a bit, so if the thymus is a bit like a sun or a star, then the dantian is a bit like a black hole. It just draws everything into it. And it holds you together. It's exerting a pull on every particle of your body. So the element associated with the dantian is water, and it's sort of heavy. It wants to sink downwards. Water always wants to find the lowest place. So the dantian sinks and the thymus rises. So breathing out is the work phase here. I'm working these muscles quite hard. And then the breathing in is just the relaxing out of that. Now let's combine the two breathings. So pulling in the belly, breathing out, working, relaxing the belly, breathing in a little bit, and then expanding the chest, breathing in even more, and then just relaxing that, and you'll breathe out. Contract the belly, breathe everything out, relax the belly, you'll breathe in a little bit, expand the chest, you'll breathe in even more, and then just relax the chest. So we want to feel the 4 phases quite clearly. So if you do a little pause here before you do the thoracic breathing, the chest breathing, then it just helps bring some clarity into the situation. So I pull in, and there's a sense that I bounce out of this. The return is inevitable. It's a relaxation. And then I breathe in and really stretch into something, and then just let that relax, and I'll bounce out of it. Pause. Breathe out, pulling the belly in. Relax that, breathing in. pause. Breathe in even more by stretching the chest, by pulling the shoulders together really, and then just relax that and you'll breathe out, pause. Breathing out, relaxing. Breathing in, relaxing. So a simple breathing exercise, we're using it to develop those two centers. Belly and thymus. So the thymus should naturally lift. It's light like a flame. And the dantian should naturally sink. But they will only do so if developed through practice. So when a person is depressed, energetically, it's because their thymus is not lifting and their dantian is not sinking. We want to feel the thymus really reaching up into the head. So we're trying to develop the head center to be simply a place of attentive shining. It's gleaming. So it's empty of thoughts. It's not thinking, which will tend to ruin its natural functioning. It's just there. It's alert and it's attentive. But there's a sense that you're beaming out light from your head center. So you can think of the thymus as really being the bottom of the head region. And you can think of eros, the deep, loving, compassionate heart, as being the top of the dantian region. So really the heart is a bit like the head and the belly regions overlapping. Pulling the belly right in, relax that out, and then really stretching open the upper chest and relaxing that. And now let's just bring it to riding horse. And now let's just try some full and empty. So first, just the front foot, because it's easier to feel. So as I bring my weight forwards, I just want to feel the ground coming up. And then as I leave the foot, as my weight goes back, that weight flows out like a flow of energy. So here I want to feel this is energy that's rising up the leg, and this is energy that's going back down. So the struggle for most students is just allowing the world of energy to open up to them. So it requires a mind that is just quiet enough to stay with it, to stay on the job, that's not wandering all the time. But it also requires a bit of an imagination. So if you don't feel it, you just imagine it. Fake it till you make it. Something flows up and then something flows back out. And then just bringing the back leg in as well. The legs have to remain as relaxed as they can, otherwise their tightness will stop the energy from flowing through them. And when I release the leg, when I go into the other leg, I want it to flush out completely. So I want to just try and completely relax the leg as it empties. We tend to keep a little bit of strength in it all the time. Just observe your mind. The only way your mind can possibly close off and start thinking to itself as if is if you have introduced tension. Closedness is always a tension. And now let's just reverse the feet. So again, just front leg. Something rises up and it lifts the heart, and then something flows out. The only way you'll possibly release here is if you really see that flow, if you keep it open. And then just getting the back leg involved as well. So as you go into the back leg, just bring the energy up it. Joints in the legs have to try and stay open. especially the hips here and the sacroiliacs at the back. So whenever I move, part of me is getting more tense and part of me is getting more relaxed. So I want to feel both of those together. So as I feel this leg gaining strength, filling up, I have to also feel this emptying. Otherwise, there's no longer the balance. And in the absence of balance, we will tend to stiffen our tension. And it will then become a holding tension rather than a fluid dynamic one. So this is getting more tight to hold me up, but this is really letting go. My mind has to be just with the balance all the way. If my mind leaves that, then I will have to tighten up across my sacrum. And then the energy won't be able to get up into the upper body then. Let's bring it to like a narrower stance. Feet angled in again. So you can think of that as outside edges parallel, or just of your heels wanting to sort of drift apart to open this area up even more. And now let's just work on ward off a little bit. So just sinking into this leg and extending the arm on the other side. Again, it's full and empty. So this leg has filled up a little bit more than it was. And this whole side of my body has emptied a little bit more than it was. And then I want to just retrieve ward off. So that's just a matter of just rolling back in towards the hand, but really trying to keep this region very open and soft. So I extend and then I just turn and my arm becomes a circle, having been straight. And then I reach again, it straightens. So it's important here that you turn your attention away from the region that you're reaching into. It's here. The ward off is a rolling up, a bringing in, but also a turning of your attention towards what it is that you've captured. But it's very much like a lucky dip. You're not quite sure what you're going to bring in. But here it's really rounding out here. So it just feels like you've got to cradle a baby and it just has to be really soft, especially in the shoulder region. So this is the yielding phase, obviously. What I want to register is that I bring the arm in, and that doesn't, it's not contracting the whole arm. The more I bend it, the more I can stay open here, the more the arm will really stretch from the middle of the back. So this is ward off. Ward off appears to be closed, but it's actually very open. The roundness has opened it up even more, but opened it up from my back here. So filling this leg, emptying the arm, letting it all just flow out. And then slowly I bring the weight here. So this side is now filling and this side is emptying. And now let's just try a little bit with the other hand. It's one of those exercises that we obviously, we do both arms together, alternating, but it's a good practice to start off one at a time because it's easier to feel. So I really reach here, my weight has gone into this leg, my right leg, and then I just turn. And I think of this region here, I just want this region to really stay open. Like there's a little sort of whirlpool or something here. So I'm turning my attention away, and then I bring my attention towards what it is I'm bringing in. Just imagine you're sort of really short-sighted, so you just can't see what's beyond your ward off. So everything's blurred beyond here. And then I bring my eyes around to see what's in this region. And now this is relaxed. This is emptied. And now let's just get them both together. So this one now reaching out, and then this one yields. You want the two phases working together. So the two sides of the body are connected. So as one side yields, the other side has to attack. So I really release here, but I similarly also release here. The leg has to release away from the hip, from the sacroiliac especially. And now we want to just do the same thing, but with the legs, because it's exactly the same in the legs. So I can fill here and turn towards it and just feel this leg just as though it's reaching out in that direction. And then the leg starts to bend and round, become rounder. And particularly, I want to feel this joint here, my hip joint, the groin, opening, really. So this action is just pulling this apart and creating the same as the whirlpool here. It's creating like a whirlpool in this fold. So I turn. So that same tender, embracing feeling that I get here, I want to also get it in the leg, in the hip, the top of the leg. This really opens. It's as though someone is pushing like a fist into this fold, so that when it folds, it doesn't fold closed like this, it folds open like this. And with all of these exercises, we just repeat long enough so that we feel it in the heart and the head. So how is it changing the way I feel as I yield, effectively yield with the leg? In the same way that when I yield with the arm, this has a feeling that I'm sucking someone into this space. It's the same here, but it's more like I'm sucking the ground towards this region. So my sinking isn't just getting lower, it's actually drawing the ground up into the Dan Qian. So feel it all the way up into, so here, either side of the ilium here, you have got like two little hollows where someone could pull you, like little handles. And so just feel this openness here coming all the way up to here. Now let's just bring it up into a narrower stance again. Feel the sacrum just hanging heavily, very loosely held by the two hip bones. And feel this being drawn upwards. And now let's just tilting the hips. Think of yourself having a tail that's hanging down about this long, and you're wanting to point the tail in this direction, and then point the tail in this direction. Without moving your sacrum side to side too much, you're just using this action to flick the tail to the side. So my tail and my head are wanting to point in this direction, but my mid back here is pulling back. So it's a strange feeling. It's like pulling the bow. So here you can think of the spine being the string of the bow. So here I'm pulling my spine here, but these two ends are being held by the bow itself, so they're pulling in this direction. So it feels very not Tai Chi, but I think it's important because it does really help the sacrum to wake up, open up, and just become mobile on any plane. Let's bring it back to riding horse. Now just feel your hips. They should feel really fluid. So these tipping of the hips, you just have to be careful with that exercise because it will tend to make this region a bit sore. Whenever you do something you're not used to, just be careful. And now just picking the foot up. So just turning and sinking down the leg. So we've woken up the tail now with this tipping exercise and the relaxation here. So I just want to, again, just use a little flick, roll of the hip. It's very small, just to get my tail reaching down and underneath the foot. I have a presence in the ground with my extended tail. Attention, you've got to be really attentive to every aspect. We're trying to give it more and more of our attention. I remember hearing Michael Caine in an interview saying that stage acting is a bit like doing surgery with a scalpel, but acting for the screen is like doing surgery with a laser. It's really fine. The camera, when it gets, especially when it gets close up, it captures things that the audience in the theatre just can't see because they're too far away. So this is, we're looking at it with a really strong microscope. And I just have to stay with it. If my mind just flits off even for a millisecond, I've lost it, and effectively I have to start again. So this is effectively how we take the foot off the ground when we do the form. So to get my foot off the ground, I have to bring my weight into this foot. And I just take the roundabout route, if you like. I go around the outside and home in on the center, but underneath the foot. So there's always a sense that your sinking is flowing round the edge of something that's rising up. So right through the center of my leg, there's this flow of energy that's coming up from the ground, and I'm flowing down all around it. Now let's bring it back and just check the outside edges. And now let's try the form. So just from the beginning, and then we'll just do single whip and maybe a little bit more. So I come into the foot the same way I've just been practicing. So a sense that something in the leg releases first so that the tail can just open up and start reaching down. So something in me almost comes into this foot first so that this can just release a little bit. And then I swing around the foot, step here. And then again, I come into this leg by yielding here. So everything we've been practicing since the beginning of this class is just all for the form, really. And again, here, this is going to swing around like this. And that is going to get the opposite thing happening in this arm. And then here, this is like reaching out in order to roll back in. So there's a sense that ward off, first of all, goes out straight and then rolls into the ward off. And this cuts down by turning the waist even more here. And that brings the toes round. And again, just going around this foot to get all the weight into it. I open up and again, both arms round out, which creates a real vacuum here, which sucks the other person in to my space. And then here I step, and there's a sense that this arm is extending out, and then I turn around into it, and that rolls it in to ward off. And then single whip, just going back, straightening the arms. And now just stay in the left foot, turning round to the corner here. And then just bringing the hook in. Now, it's just unclear really what's meant to happen here. The way we were taught is you stay in this foot, imagine striking with the elbow, and then just flick the waist back to send the hook out and sink into this foot at that point. But everyone does it differently. So I turn. Now, so some people will really sink into this foot on this bit and then just turn round here. So let's do it the way we were taught. So I'm in this foot now. I just turn, pivoting on this heel. I have to turn enough so that this foot is really facing this direction, if not further. Otherwise, the next step is going to be difficult. And then I turn here, staying in this leg, striking with the elbow, this elbow here, and then turning the waist back to fold the hook out and sinking into this leg. And then that will give energy to the opposite arm, which can then start reaching out. And then you come forwards. And the feeling of the coming forwards is almost like you're pulling yourself forwards. I'm holding on to something here and I'm pulling to get the body forwards and to swing this hip round, which will bring these toes round. And then lifting hands, just turning back to the north. North is just the direction we start off facing. And just putting all the weight into this leg so that you can pick up this foot. And then you just turn a little bit this way to bring in the right arm. And then you turn a little bit this way to bring in the left arm. So you're holding someone's arm, your left hand on their wrist, your right hand on their elbow. And you're really driving down into this back foot. So it's tough on the left leg, this one. Stay in the left leg whilst you bring the hook in. Think of the elbow here, and then just fold out the hook. Yeah, so remember, you're coming in with the elbow. The person you're attacking just blocks it with their hand. And as soon as you feel that pressure, you just fold out the hook and hit them with the hook instead. Into this left foot. And bringing in the arms. So don't worry too much about having your back completely vertical here. Most people really sort of bend forwards a little bit here, but keeping the weight back. So there's a sense that you've really made a hollow here. And then you just relax the hands down, keeping them away from the body. And then you step here, and then shoulder stroke. So just bringing 70% of the weight forwards. And that movement is turning this way, like this, to strike with the shoulder. And then as I come into the front foot, this side of my body is swinging around. So at the end, the shoulder is gone and the energy is now in the back hand because my weight is in the front foot. So I go back, not so much by pushing here. You can start by pushing here, but by opening up here, the same way we brought ourselves around like this. So a real sense that there's a softness here, there's a softness here. So as I sink into that foot, this whole side of my body is reeling in and rounding out, and the other side of the body is extending to attack. Again, just trying to feel the yield and the attack in different sides of the body, always balanced. So the more I yield here, the more this leg bends and I draw the world in, the more it comes out of the other side. And then I just swing that round. And now let's just come into this foot now as we yield. So just feel this rounding out here and here. So everything is softening on this side of my body as I sink into this foot, and then I'll just throw it out. And again, I soften here and in the shoulder, and that will draw me forwards. And then just round with my tail, sinking down the leg, and yield, yield. So this is really closed in the sense that my two sides of the body have curved round like this. So here we have to make sure we step wide a little bit rather than just long. So it's wider out than lifting hands was. And then 1, 2. So that's mechanically what's happening. It tends to just come forwards like this, but in your mind, you're coming from the back leg into this shoulder, and then you come forwards into this leg and this hand. And then white crane spread swing. So just coming into this leg completely and turning this way. So turning towards this wall. So now it's the front of my foot on the ground rather than my heel. So let's try from the single web. So I turn, I open, sinking my tail down that left leg. And then again, this one is active really. This one is pulling down. Again, my tail reaching down this leg. So there's a sense here that I'm trying to push forwards, and this foot is trying to keep me back. So there's a little bit of a battle going on. Okay, so let's try it once from the beginning up to there. So this hand here is facing up. Doesn't really matter. Now let's bring it to a tension posture with the toes pointing in. You should really not want to straighten the legs. It's a violence. It pushes the sacrum too high and out of alignment. Feeling that the legs are always bending and giving. Head suspended. Tail unraveling and dropping down. Feel the thymus. Feel the dantian.